Okay, all yours, Sarah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming to this little presentation. So I'm just going to be talking a bit about King's generally and a bit about our program. So I'm just going to bear with me. I was just saying before to Jennifer that I'm not a typical Zoom user. In the UK, we're very much more Microsoft Teams. So I'm just trying to get used to this. So just bear with me. Subject from the beginning. Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Sarah Goodyear. I am the Global Mobility Senior Officer. So I'm the incoming students coordinator. So there's a team of 3 of us at King's within our Global Mobility department that look after all students coming to King's as part of their study abroad program. So to give you a bit of idea about King's and London. And so I'm going to try and get a zip through this relatively quickly because I think probably like a Q&A might be more useful for you guys, but we'll see how it goes. So King's is a large university in the UK. So as you can see, we've got over 33,000 students. That is not all in one space. Particularly at the moment, that would be awful. But you know, we have a number of different campuses, but we are home to a large number of international students as well. That is in our general degree cohort and study abroad students as well. In terms of sort of the makeup of the student body, you know, we have over 185 countries represented. So it's a really diverse, really interesting community to be a part of. Okay, so there's a couple of reasons why we think that you should choose King's. So we have, as I mentioned, a number of different campuses across London. So depending on the classes that you take, you might be studying at a couple of those, a couple of different ones. We are a very historic university. So I think we're something like the fourth in the UK after Oxford, Cambridge, UCL. So we have a really interesting history, a lot of Nobel Prize winners, a lot of really important people have studied with us. Research is a big part of King's as well. So King's has been leading in a lot of the COVID-19 research going on in the UK. For example, there's an app that we can use to report if we're feeling well every day, and which gives more information to the scientists about like what are different symptoms, and you recognize one. So that was sort of spearheaded by King's, which is really great. We are a Russell Group university, which is basically like a collective of really good universities in the UK, and we're one of those. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of where we're located in London. So as you can see, it's right in the centre. We are not a campus university, so there is no general big wall around all of our campus buildings. We're spread out around the city, which means that study abroad students have a really fantastic opportunity to spend a lot of time in different parts of London. So I'm trying to see. So number 1, King Strand campus, that's where I am at the moment. Most of our study abroad students will take classes in Strand campus or our Waterloo campus. If anyone is doing biosciences, they're typically going to be on our Guy's campus, which is number 16 on the map. So that's south of the river, not too far away. But everything is very easily accessible. A lot of students commute within London anyway, so it might just be that you have to walk a bit, or you have to get a bus to campus from your accommodation. But you know, London is a really interesting city. There's lots of things to do, so it's never a chore to spend your time traveling across the city. So we have lots of things going on at King's. So something that most, if not all, UK universities have is a students' union. I don't think you have these so much in the US, but basically it is run by students for students. So it's where clubs and societies are based. It's where bar, that the bars and some of the cafes are run. So as you can see, we've got 6 on-campus venues. For clubs and societies, if there isn't a society that represents what you enjoy, then you can create your own. As you can see, some things, Harry Potter Society. I think Breaking KCL is like breakdancing, and then the Rolling Tones was like an a cappella group that I think they won a competition to go to Broadway, which is quite exciting. So this is a really good way of getting involved in the King's community and meeting sort of degree-seeking students as well, meeting new people, just sort of broadening your horizons a bit. Sports clubs too, and most of the societies and clubs are free to join as well. It might be that the sports club, there's a small fee to pay for like court hire or access to particular facilities, but generally things are free. They don't have membership fees to join, and these are open for students to join whether you're coming in September or whether you're coming in January as well. So we definitely encourage students to get involved in these. Okay. So teaching in the UK is a little bit different to that in the US. And I think it's important to be aware of that before you start considering where you're going to study abroad. So for us at King's, we have lectures and we have seminars, or sometimes called tutorials. They're basically the same thing. So the lectures are more classic. As you can see in the picture, you're sitting and listening to the academic give their lecture. At the moment, a lot of our lectures are online or pre-recorded, just because we are being mindful of social distancing and because we are still living in a pandemic. Whereas our seminars will be smaller groups, where you'll go through the material that was covered in the lecture. You discuss with your academic and with your fellow students. So it's really important to attend those, because it's where you get the most out of it, really. We have study abroad tutors who are there to give academic advice and guidance if you're not sure where to go to. They're part of a particular academic department. But what is really important to remember as well is that a big part of UK teaching style is independent study. So you might only have 2 hours of classes for a particular module when you're at King's. So if you're taking 4 modules, you won't have huge amounts of time in the classroom, but you're expected to do a fair amount of independent study around that. When I was at university, we were told to spend, for every hour we spent in class, to spend 4 hours in the library. I definitely did not do that, I will admit, but you are supposed to be doing a lot of reading around your lectures and your seminars, a lot of preparation. Your assessment might be only from 1 essay at the end of term, so it's really important to go to classes, to do your research and work around it. Yeah, so assessment is very different as well. And what is important to remember is that we will not make sort of personal assessment arrangements for students who choose to go home earlier, or say, oh, I've got an internship in June, so I've got to be home early. Unfortunately, it sounds harsh to say we don't care, but if there are exams going on in those dates, you're expected to sit them. But that's something we'll go through more if you are made an offer to study at King's. Okay, so to give you an idea about accommodation, so there's various different housing options for study abroad students. So you might be housed with other study abroad students. It might be other degree seeking students at King's. We also have intercollegiate halls, which means we share with other universities that are part of the University of London. The prices do vary. Some are quite expensive, but are really nice. But what is worth knowing is that all of the rooms are private ensuite rooms that typically, minimum are private ensuite. Some of them might be like a small studio if that's what you prefer to choose. But the standard room is its private room, its own bathroom, and then you share a kitchen with sort of 6 to 8 people. The sharing rooms that is very common in the US is not the same here. Hopefully that you'll be glad to know about that. If you're coming for semester 1, then you'll be given a September to beginning of January contract. If you're coming for semester 2, so that's January to June, you'll be given a contract that covers that whole period as well. Okay, just to give you an idea of where some of the different ones are located. So as I said, most students are taking classes on the Strand or Waterloo campus, and there's quite a few housing options near Waterloo. There's some near Guy's as well. If you're on one that, you know, for example, that Angel Lane one, that's in Stratford, right close to the Olympic Park. They're all very, very easy to get to King's with. So, you know, if you did end up going in one of the ones that is a bit further out, don't worry. Transport is good in London. Okay, so to give you a little idea about study abroad at King's, so typically, I can say in a normal year, and obviously we are still not in a normal year, I wish we were, we would get around 1,000 students across the year. So that is for the full year or semester only programs. And we do have, you know, students come from all over the world. We have exchange agreements with a lot of universities, but for your universities, it would be a fee-paying student, so not an exchange, but you are treated exactly the same way, you know, regardless of how you're getting here. I will say though that for fee-paying students, our program is extremely competitive because we do have a limited number of places. So I'm going to go ahead and say is that when the applications open, apply on the first day. You know, really do your application quickly, because this year we had for about 250 applications for just over 100 places. So unfortunately, there will be students that are made unsuccessful. But for our program, you know, you do have quite a lot of academic freedom. So you can, in theory, choose modules from across nearly all of King's departments. We do have quite strict eligibility requirements, which I will cover in a minute. But you know, you can create your own sort of academic program. Obviously, you'll need to make sure it transfers back to your home university. So everything that we have on campus is open to study abroad students the same way as it would be for degree-seeking students. In other years, we've had peer advisors who've helped host our events. It's a little bit different at the moment. We have been able to recruit those, but it may be there are events shared with our degree-seeking students who are going abroad and would like to connect with other, you know, with students from the US or other exchange students. So hopefully we'll have some events like that going forward. Just to cover a little bit about module registration, because people always ask about that. So it's an online process. We do it first come, first served, because we get so many requests. When you're here at King's, you take 60 King's credits if you're coming for a semester, which is typically 4 modules. A module is just another word for a class. I did have a student the other day say, we don't have modules at my university. I'm like, but you do have classes. So it's the same thing. So we do ask you to give quite a few different options because we do have limited spaces on our modules. So we have, as I mentioned, eligibility criteria. This isn't so relevant for you at the moment, but it's useful to know. We have level 4, 5, and 6 modules, which equates to first year, second year, third year. For King's, level 4 modules generally are fine if you don't have the background knowledge, whereas level 5s and 6 modules, we do ask for related background. We look at your transcripts for this. That's very important for us. Yeah, so that is King's in a nutshell, really. If you have any questions that I'm not able to answer today, or you have any later, you can just email us at studyabroad@kcl.ac.uk. We have some links below that you can have a look at. We have our Instagram, things like that. I know I have spoken very quickly and gone through a lot. I know that it's just because I'm aware that we have limited time. So I think it'd be useful to use some of that time for questions as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. I hope that was interesting. I hope it was useful. But if anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer them now. I'll see if there's anything in the chat. See, that's interesting when you said Wellesley only approves full or full year, because I was wondering, oh, we haven't had any students from Wellesley this semester for January. That would make sense now to me.
So I think we could take questions either, with people kind of raising their hand or putting in the chat.
Don't be shy. Anyone? Or Jennifer, do you have any questions that you would like to ask that maybe will prompt other people?
Looks like we have one here. Can you speak a little bit about summer study abroad offerings at King's?
That isn't my area, I'm afraid. So I don't actually know. Let me just have a look. So we do have summer programs at King's, but I do just need to quickly Google it because that is housed in a different department to us. But I can put it in the chat for Imogen.
Okay, and then as you're doing that, there are some other questions that came in. Could you speak a little bit about the Health and Society program?
Yes, so that is a really interesting program. It is a small sort of bespoke program for students who are interested in medicine. So if you are a pre-med, I think you call it in the US. So it is basically, the program is made up of, so it's called Health and Society. Health and Society is actually just one module, but it is a really sort of special kind of clinical focused module. It should be run, we had to cancel it for the last couple of semesters because you can't run stuff like that in a pandemic, but it should be going ahead in January. So you spend time, it's a program sort of curated by medical professionals who are also academics at King's. So there's time spent in clinical settings. So it might be shadowing like GPs, so they're doctors at general doctor surgeries, and taking part in role plays and stuff like that. We do have some stuff on the website, so I can link that as well. Now that one is quite a small program, so we only have about 16 places on it, I feel, but actually we don't get huge numbers of applications for it because it is so bespoke. When you apply, you do need to put in a personal statement as well, explaining why you would be a good candidate for that program. So it's actually, I mean, it's competitive, but actually less competitive than the main program in terms of how many people we get apply and how many places we can give out. But it is really interesting. So let me just find the page and I will just put it in here. So you take that one Health and Society module, and then your three modules, your three other modules are general academic modules. So some people might take things related to biosciences or something from our global health and social medicine department, because they're all kind of related, but in theory you could do anything. Okay, what types of, I'm happy just to go through the questions here. So what types of majors are popular? So actually lots of things, to be honest. So our faculties, really, we have arts and social sciences, we have arts and humanities, and then we have social science and public policy, we have natural mathematical sciences, we have biosciences, things like our European and international politics, war studies, political economy, global health and social medicine. They're very, very popular. So for those, like module space might be limited for those, because for a lot of classes we're only given a small number of classes. So even if you meet the requirements, we can't guarantee we can register you on them. But then some of our humanities classes are very popular as well, history, philosophy. We do have, you can have a look at our module catalogue, that whilst it changes every year, a lot of the things are quite similar. So you can have a look and see the different modules that are available and the different things that we offer. So yeah, I know that's quite vague, but our social sciences are super popular as well. I'd say, but for US students, North American students, quite a wide range of things. But what we always recommend to students, like for example, if you're interested in politics, some people just go, okay, well, I'm just going to look in EIS, which is the European and International Studies department. But actually, if you look in places like our French department, our German department, there will be politics modules there, which may not be quite so oversubscribed. So we recommend having a look through the entire, quite a wide range of departments to see what would be interesting for you. And what a module size is usually like, it really can vary. So some of them that might be, say, a first year class in war studies could have a couple of hundred people in it. So it will be a really big lecture, but then, the seminars are small. So they might be 10 to 15 people. And that's kind of across the board for most departments, that it might be a larger lecture, but then the seminar tutorial will be a smaller class. Someone has sent me a message saying, can you go over requirements for applications? So yeah, so we are really strict, I'm afraid, with our application requirements. So one of the biggest thing that we really look at is GPA. So you need to have at least a 3.3 GPA. We don't budge on that, I'm afraid, because our program is so oversubscribed, so popular. There are a lot of students who meet those requirements. We ask that you have studied for at least a year, which hopefully, if you're coming to us and saying your junior year, you will do that. I mean, those are the main application requirements. As I say, though, it's really important to get your application in early, because it gets full very, very quickly. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that made sense. But you can also see, so on our website, we do have information on how to apply. So I would definitely recommend, when it comes to applying, before you do so, and with plenty of time, read through the application instructions, because we do have our applicants make mistakes on their applications, which would be avoided if you read the guidance. The guidance is helpful. Someone says to me as well, does applying later give you a lower chance of being accepted versus a student applying early with the same GPA? Yes, we look at our applications on a first come, first served basis. So if you apply on the first day and you've got a GPA of 3.3, and someone who has a GPA of 4 applies on the last day before the deadline, the person with the higher GPA will not get a place. Most likely, I would say, if you leave applying till the end of the deadline, or the day before the deadline, most likely, and this is just me being honest, you are unlikely to be offered a place. We last year, or for this September, things were a bit quieter. We were like, oh, that's nice, slow applications. But for this January, I think maybe it was because we had people who weren't able to go in September, people who weren't able to go last spring. We had a lot of applications, and it filled up very, very quickly. And someone said, when is the fall 2020 deadline for applications? Everything is on, or will be on, the website, which I'm just going to put here. Whilst this says key dates for 21-22, we keep the application dates the same every year, or very, very similar. So typically, I mean, we kept it open a little bit longer for semester 1 this year, but typically for fee-paying students, you have a month to apply. So it's from the 1st of February to the 1st of March. And that's for the September program and the full year one. And for students applying, for those who are able to apply for spring, the applications will be the 1st of September, I think. Yeah, first it's just September. That's when you apply. But it's just to reiterate that students who meet the application sort of requirements and apply before the deadline, unfortunately, we can't guarantee a place. For health and society, it is a little bit different. You know, we will assess all applications for health and society. So even if you apply the last day, that's fine, you'll still be considered. Whereas for the general program, as I mentioned, it is first come, first served. So William has asked, can you begin working on the application before they open submission? No. So the portal will open on that first day and then you'll be able to submit. But really, it's not an application that asks you to, you don't have to submit a personal statement unless you are doing health and society. So most of it is just the information that you need to put in is like your transcript, your passport, things like that. So there isn't much that you can really prepare. It's probably a good idea for you to have either your references, because you will need to supply a reference as well. It's good to have that prepared, or at least speak to your referee in advance and let them know that you'll be putting their details down. Because if you put someone's email address in as your referee, they'll get an email saying, please submit this. And we can't assess your application until the reference is in. So we won't make a conditional offer based on your reference. So if if your reference doesn't submit anything and we've been waiting for like 2 weeks, you run the risk of being made successful if you unsuccessful even if you did apply really early and things like that. So references are really important, just to, as I said, either have it prepared. So for some students, their international office tells them to put sort of the coordinators' emails down and then they submit the reference. Other colleges, universities, you just put your academic reference in, details in. Others, you're allowed to upload it yourself. So just make sure that you're speaking to your coordinators to understand how that process is done. That can be done in advance, because I imagine some of your different colleges will do things a little differently. But we've got a student at the moment, like she's ready to be made an offer, but because her referee hasn't responded, her offer is just sitting there. She hasn't been made the offer yet. So that is good to sort out early. Is there anything else I can help with? Hopefully I'm not waffling too much. Well, I'm talking quite quickly, but it's the end of the day for me, so I'm quite tired.
So when I'm tired, I just talk a bit mad.
Yes.
I work in Vassar Office of International Programs. What subject areas are you most known for, and what distinguishes King's College from other universities that students might be looking at in London?
So I think some of the areas that we're known for example, war studies is quite a big department. That is not taught in many universities. To be honest, this is going to sound very vague and and a bit basic perhaps, but we are really well known for all our subjects. We're very, very highly regarded in the UK as one of the top universities in the UK, one of the top universities in the world. That's to do with like the standard of teaching, the research that King's does as a whole, sort of the history of King's, the work that we do on a wide range of topics. So I know that is not a very specific answer. If my colleagues who were doing the recruitment, they would probably have their spiel ready. But what I know is, from working with the students that come here, is that they find the modules they take really enriching. It's perhaps a different perspective to the way things are taught at home. We're looking at we look at sort of topics from perhaps a British or a European point of view, but then our academic staff represent a wide range of countries, across the world as well. So it's a really global view on things as well. And as we mentioned, or as I mentioned before, our student body is very diverse too. So coming to King's really means that you get to experience London and the UK, but you get to experience kind of like the world on a smaller scale academically as well. If that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. As I said, it's been a long day.
So are there any defining characteristics that distinguish King's from other schools, like a reason why a student would choose to go to King's College versus, Queen Mary or another school?
I mean, for example, with Queen Mary, we're in a nicer part of London. Queen Mary, for example. I mean, that's my personal opinion. To be honest, I mean, I would say a lot of the universities that are part of the University of London can be quite, so Queen Mary, for example, is part of University of London, so is UCL, LSE, for example. A lot of them, a lot of us are quite similar in what we offer. You may find similar classes. It just depends on, I think, what an individual student is looking for in their university experience. So for example, if someone wants to have a more campus-based environment, then Queen Mary, for example, will be quite good for them because it is a campus and everything is a bit more close together. Whereas if they are looking for a more sort of independent university experience and they quite like the idea of staying somewhere that is a little bit further out and walking through London or getting the bus to find their classes, traveling around, then King's and UCL are good for that as well. I think it also depends on a student's academic interests too. The good thing about all of our universities is that we do publish our module catalogues and things like that online. So I think it is just more of what is a good fit for an individual student, and do we offer the sort of classes that really grab them. I think we are very strong across the board academically. So I think students from all of the departments that we offer will have really strong teaching, a really wide range of classes available. It just really depends on what they like, really. I mean, some of the reasons I like working at King's, one, like the diverse sort of subject areas, the diverse student body, but part of what I also like is how, and this sounds quite shallow, but how the buildings look. For example, the building that we're in at the moment, the King's building, is like the original historic building. We have I'm not religious, but there is a chapel upstairs which is absolutely beautiful. Our office is underneath, so we hear the choir practicing during the day. It's really lovely. Whereas someone might prefer something that's a bit more modern. It really depends on someone's idea. Like, personally for me as well, I went to Royal Holloway, which I don't know if any of your students go to, which is, outside of London, leafy countryside, and the campus is small, but it's green. And I chose it because I was like, oh, this looks beautiful. I mean, the subjects for teaching is good too, but that was personally what I liked. So I think, if students have a look at our website, have a look at, we've got some videos and things online about like welcome to King's and the student experience and stuff like that. I think that will give students a bit of a feel for, it sounds cheesy, the vibe. I hate that term, but it's very important now, the vibe of a place. So I think that will help too. And I'm aware that is kind of a vague answer, but hopefully it's helpful. I think we've had a few Vassar applications this semester.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been really helpful. So I think if there's not any last questions, we'll just stop the recording. And
yeah, if anyone does have any more, you can just email me and my team at Study Abroad. kcl.ac.uk. We're very quick to reply to stuff, or I like to think we are. You can have a look at our Instagram as well. But yeah, just let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks so much.
Perfect. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see some of you soon on Kings. So I shall bid you adieu then. All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone.